Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm here at the IEEE PES T&D, that's a lot of acronyms, conference. This is the 2020 version that is actually being held in 2022. These interviews that we're conducting is with thought leaders on the future of the power industry. So enjoy. So my next and last guest, this is wonderful, is Wayne Bishop, who I've been running down to try to get to do this interview. Wayne, I'm so delighted that you got to come do this with me
sorry.
here.
Yeah,
we are now not looking at that camera. We're just going to talk to each other, right? We're having a conversation. Wayne and I met years ago and have kind of walked along together. You're the one that got me involved in IEEE, by the way.
That's right. Well, I don't know whether you have to thank me for that or
depends on the day. Depends on the 5 o'clock meetings every Wednesday to talk about the Grid Edge Conference, which, by the way, the Grid Edge Conference, April of 2023 in San Diego. Anyway, those 5 o'clock every Wednesday meetings, I wonder whether I should thank you, because my wife says, are you coming to dinner at 6:30? Because they never end on time. But Wayne is the Vice President of Meetings. Wayne also, before we get to IEEE, I want to talk about Quanta.
Right.
Because I've only known you at Omicron, and then all of a sudden, now you are the Senior Strategic, what is your title?
Senior Director of Industry Outreach.
You see how hard you had to think about that?
Well, I've only been at Quanta Technology 4 weeks. This is my 4th week officially.
Right. We were doing an interview earlier with Ben Lance, and he talked about Quanta as part of PDI Squared, the think tank that's working on cable and whether it's underground or overhead.
Yeah, so Quanta Services, the overall Quanta Services company, we have a booth here at T&D, is a $20+ billion company, right? But under that, there are a series of other companies, all related, all very much correlated together. One of them is Quanta Technology, and that's who I have just started with. The founder and president of the company is Damir Novosil, and Damir's known me for at least 10 years, like yourself, and I joked with Damir actually last night. We had dinner together, and I said, Damir, I've been on a working interview, I think for 10 years, since I've known you, so I did join it. I'm really excited. As you said, I was at Omicron for 13 years, loved it, head of marketing there. But this is going to be something totally different. It's non-marketing, it's more of a business development and industry outreach role. Prior to that, of course, because I grew up in the industry, as you know, I worked at Doble Engineering for almost 20 years. And my dad's the one that really got me into the industry. He was there for 47 years as Vice President of Operations at Doble. So speaking of the industry, there's just so much happening right now in the industry, right? And there's somebody described it as positive chaos. Yeah. Because there's so many opportunities. There are problems, like we got lead times for transformers that are up the wazoo now. They're gone into the months. Forget weeks anymore. It's into the months. So everybody's trying to do it. But what I've heard, and I'm going to get into this, but it's partly of what you're talking about. And I think, by the way, it's a brilliant role for you to not be into the marketing, because you are a strategic thinker. That's why you do the vice president meetings for IEEE, and you've done a brilliant job. I don't know how you kept things together during COVID, but boy. A good team.
We're here. We've got over 10,000 attendees, is that correct?
That's correct. We've crossed the 10,000 mark. We have 60 different countries represented.
Oh, wow.
The international attendance, quite frankly, is down a little bit, but the last time we were here in New Orleans was in 2010, and we only had about 1,000 more people than we have today here. Yeah, so if you compare those two, so if you add in the international audience that would have been here, we would have surpassed that number.
Right. We'll get more into IEEE and meetings and all of the work that's going on there. But I want to talk about Quanta, because part of the problem as we see out there, this chaos creates opportunities.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk about how does Quanta look at taking it? What are the things that you see as a company? Sure. And I know you've only been there a short time, but you've known them for a long time. What do you see the things as a company that they are going to focus on to help make order out of chaos?
Okay, so you look at all the changes happening in the industry right now, right? The integration of distributed energy resources onto the grid, solar and wind, offshore wind. Studies need to be done for those. We need to help utilities. Well, Quanta Technology is at the center of helping the utilities integrate these DERs onto the grid. We're also involved with asset management. These days, as you mentioned, transformers, the lead time is way out there. It's more important now than ever before that utilities understand the health of their apparatus, what transformers are doing and how they're operating and so forth. So we work on asset management issues. Cybersecurity as well on that. Energy storage is a big thing. Yeah. We recently completed a program up in my neck of the woods over on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Cape Cod on energy storage. So each of those islands now have energy storage capabilities.
How are they doing, when you say how are they doing that? I mean,
it's battery storage.
Okay,
battery storage. Okay. Electric vehicles. The infrastructure bill that was just passed right, by the federal government, $7.5 billion is going into EVs, electric vehicle charging stations. They're going to put up to 500,000 of these charging stations around the United States. Quanta Technology has been at the forefront of helping with that technology, helping utilities how to implement it and so forth. So it's all these, what I think, are exciting things that we're working on.
So as a strategist, help bring order out of chaos, because it is chaos. We've had several people this conference, and we were asking the question. So we've had a pretty flat demand curve, right, in the power industry, and it's already begun to tick up. But you take things like EV, and if you get 30% EV adoption, one prediction is we'll have a 30% increase in the next decade of power demand. Another prediction is a 100% increase. Well, 30% adoption, that's way below what all of the domestic car companies are talking about, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they got some of them are saying, oh, the truck fleet, I think.
Oh, yeah. You look at the Ford F-150s. Before they even had the first one roll out, I think the waiting list is like 100,000 people.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a beautiful, I saw my first one, by the way. Of course, the F-150 is a beautiful truck anyway, but it's unique when you see
I thought, Alan, you know, I'm tall like you. I'm 6'3". I said, oh my gosh, no, electric vehicles are not for me. They're small. I rode in one recently. I was like, wow, surprisingly, it's plenty of headroom, and I like to put the pedal to the metal a little bit and like to go.
It's got
boy,
torque.
the thing takes off.
That's exactly right.
So that's changing the industry. But the biggest change I see happening, and this is where IEEE PES comes in, is decarbonization.
Yeah.
Everything these days, from the boardrooms to the substations, people are talking about decarbonization, reduction of our carbon footprint. In fact, we just had a super session here at T&D on that, decarbonization and grid modernization. And that's becoming one of our major topics for all of the IEEE PES events. And as you mentioned, I have the honor of serving as IEEE PES Vice President of Meetings and Conferences, and my term will be up at the end of 2023, but before it's certainly up, I'm going to be active with Grid Edge. We're launching this brand new conference and expo next year. As you mentioned, it's going to be held in April, hosted by San Diego Gas and Electric, and you got a card right there too already, I see.
I'm on the steering committee for it, so I've had AHA as the chairman, right? And I'm excited about this because I think, personally, I think a lot of the action in all of this change is going to happen at the grid edge. It's going to happen in the distribution and beyond. And that's what we're looking forward to at the Grid Edge Conference, is to bring the same kind of energy and the same kind of thought leadership. You and I are passionate about something, and that's practitioner to practitioner, right?
That's right.
And I see two levels of practitioner. One of them is the power engineer. He works for the utility. She works for the utility. The other one is the practitioner that work for the vendors. These people have tremendous knowledge. Everybody has said to us how they value coming to this event. What they've missed about the event is they all have problems, and they get to talk about people who have solutions.
That's right.
And some of the solutions people say, I'm going around learning from other people. It's been a brilliant event. I've heard nothing but positive things. People have been...
We have 100 new exhibitors on the floor this year. 100 new exhibitors. I think that's testimony to what you just said, that there's a lot of new technologies coming in, and 700 exhibitors in all, but 100 of those are new. Over 10,000 attendees. It's incredible.
Now, there's one thing that you set up, and you told me about this when we were going to have it last year, and it was the idea that, I call it the utility bring a friend. No, bring 10.
Bring 10,
You gave them a special deal. How many companies took advantage of it?
Good question. So we introduced to bring more utility engineers onto the show floor, essentially, because that's who the exhibitors want to see. Our utility engineers. We had just over 100 different utilities take advantage of that. So they were allowed to bring 10 utility engineers for $1,000. In other words, $100 per person.
That's amazing.
So you had utilities like National Grid that might only send 3 or 4 people. This time they sent 30. They bought 3 packages for $3,000. And it's just been great. It's a win-win situation for everybody. It's a win for the exhibitors, and it's a win also for the utilities.
That's going to be, I love the academic part of IEEE, and thank goodness we have a lot of academics that have been working on committees and helping develop standards. But if you don't have the practitioners, then you tend to be talking in an academic echo chamber.
Absolutely.
They bring a reality, and the academicians love it. Because now they're talking about, is what my theory, is that going to work? And the guy's saying, no, that's not going to work in reality.
So really good point, Alan. We just implemented our long-term strategic plan for IEEE PES, and it's a 5-year plan. And the first bullet item on that plan is to engage industry.
Right.
And you said it well, you need to have the practitioners there, the utilities there to talk about it, the lessons learned and so forth and what they're doing. And there'll be plenty of discussion about that, I'm sure, in the spring. But even before that is our general meeting coming up in July, right? It'll be hosted by Xcel Energy. I am so thrilled to be back in person.
I know you are.
In person.
I know you are a relational man. I know.
I was so tired, like everybody else, of looking at people on a screen and trying to do this thing virtually. And yeah, sure, you have these virtual happy hours. Everybody brings their beer and they have their fun at night. It's not the same as this.
Right.
So many of the great meetings take place at the water cooler here, over a cup of coffee, or going to have dinner last night or something like that.
And you see other people that you know, and you're like, I can't. We just had some people come in. I said, why didn't you sign up to do this? And they said, well, I did, but you were full. We were completely full from 8 o'clock the first day until you're the last person. People that want to share, because that's the first thing we ask, what's happening in the industry? So you get people wanting to share their knowledge. That to me is what I love about IEEE.
And that's what's the best thing about IEEE, PES, and just our industry. Exciting time to be here, but the people want to share. They want to give back.
Okay.
They want to give back.
Now I need you to do a pitch for me. I need you to do a commercial for me, okay? Smart Grid was formed by 13 societies plus PES. It was housed under PES because that was the natural place to put it, because they were the ones that kind of brought them together. Not very many of the other societies are involved anymore. And Smart Grid, even though people think, oh, that's old hat, we did it long ago, it's grid modernization.
It is.
And everything we're talking about is that.
Smart Grid.
Tell the other societies why they ought to get back involved with us.
We need to get them back involved. They can start by getting involved in ISGT.
Excellent.
Which is the Innovative Smart Grid Technologies Conference. That is held in conjunction and in cooperation with IEEE Smart Grid. They play a very integral role in that event. It's being held actually this week, co-located with T&D, because we had to postpone it from February because of the Omicron variant. But next year, it'll be back in January, and it'll be in Washington, D.C. And the unique thing about that event, from a smart grid perspective, is we bring together the utilities, the regulators, the folks from Department of Energy, the users, the consultants, and most of all, even the customer's viewpoint. And we used to call them ratepayers, right?
Right. Yeah, they don't call them that anymore.
No, don't call them that anymore. They're customers.
Then they went from ratepayers to consumers to prosumers.
Prosumers,
right now
that's right.
They're giving us power when we don't want it, and they're taking power when we don't want to give it to them.
That's right.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff going on. That's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, my son actually just in LA just installed rooftop solar. Cut his electricity bill down to about $32 from several $100s, right? So he's delighted.
Yeah.
But he said there's problems because there are cloudy days in Los Angeles. And he said it's not quite as effective anymore. And I said, you're just like every other prosumer. When you want it, you expect the utility to deliver it immediately. You don't want any delays. But when you don't want it, you want them to buy it back.
Absolutely.
And he said, that sounds complex. And I said, that's what the utilities are dealing with. That's why there has never been a greater time, Wayne, for what's happening. Thank you for what you're doing, for your leadership. There's never been a greater need for society. I got to interview Pat before Pat passed away.
That's right, Pat Ryan, our executive director.
And the one thing that Pat got excited about when he was a great interview.
Absolutely.
But when I said, Pat, what's the thing that really, when you wake up in the morning, you're most excited about? Smart Village.
Yes.
And right down from us is an example of the Smart Village. And Pat said something, he said, when we put in lighting, we create literacy.
That's right.
Literacy creates opportunity. I mean, you think about that. Electricity, without it, we would be an illiterate world for the most part. We'd all be trying to learn by candlelight.
Yeah, an important part of IEEE, of course, our mission is humanitarian efforts, right?
Absolutely.
And giving back. And Smart Village, as you said, is probably the best example of that.
Yeah.
And every year they have a conference that they help plan and participate in called IEEE Power Africa. It's held down in Africa, and we move it around the continent of Africa. And this year it'll be in Rwanda in August, and it's put on by IEEE PES and IEEE IAS, the Industrial Application Society. And so, yeah, they're doing some great things with Smart Village.
You've got a lot going on in meetings. One last thing, and then I'll let you go. One of the things that you always mention to me is the idea of getting more of the practitioners engaged on these committees. That we've got to have, number one, more power engineers join, more of the people that
it's not a closed group. Anybody can join.
Absolutely.
Anybody. Yes.
And if we do that, and this next generation, like my sons, they're in their 30s. One of the things that they said to me is, Dad, I want to make a difference.
That's right.
You want to make a difference as a power engineer? Get involved with IEEE.
There's no better way.
Advance society. So
absolutely.
Anyway.
And you'll be involved at the center of decarbonization as well.
Yeah, you like that, don't you? Center of decarbonization.
Absolutely.
Wayne, thank you so much, brother.
Alan, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thank you for all that you do for our industry as well. Much appreciated.
I'm changing the world.